All right, guys, you're live.
Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us here. Uh, we just got back actually from Florida. We were blessed to spend some time with Matt Frad over on the Pints with Aquinas
Oh, fun.
podcast, and that episode is going to be released in 3 weeks. We spent 3.5 hours talking to Matt, the subject being marriage and how incredibly easy that should be for everybody. No, it's not. And so we just had a real honest, raw heart to heart about the challenges of marriage. I think a lot of people head into this sacrament all bright eyed and bushy tailed, not quite ready for what is to come. And so we just had a super frank, honest discussion about the ups and downs in our marriage and his, and just a really fruitful conversation. And then spent 2 hours talking about that, and then an hour and a half answering questions and answers. So keep an eye over on our social media platforms. We'll be announcing it as soon as that episode goes live in about 3 weeks. But if you do have questions, again, we want to encourage you to join the discussion today. You can do that by sending in your question through the Discord server, and that link is below here on YouTube. Or if you're not watching on YouTube, you're over on Twitch or wherever, you can hop over to YouTube, submit your question, and you can ask it, type it out, or you could actually just call us in through Discord. Or if you want, you could email us a question at live@chastity.com, and that can be personal, it can be anonymous, whatever you want. Any questions, dating, relationships, life, love, everything in between. Happy to field your questions for the next 50 something minutes until it hits 7 o'clock here out of the West Coast. And then we got to run back into the house. If you've noticed, our podcast set became incredibly bleak. It's because we moved it from the studio and commandeered one of our children's rooms who left for college. And so that way we could film more content for y'all at home. We have not decorated a thing, but just needed to get all the electrical jazz set up, which it is. And in the coming weeks, we'll be constructing a studio in here. So we want to, in advance, thank everybody who supports us on Patreon and encourage us, if you haven't joined that community, please consider doing so. Because right now we've got one camera and a lens. We'd love to get multiple cameras, build a whole set, but we really rely upon the support of our patrons. So if our show ministry has been a blessing to you, please prayerfully consider going over to patreon.com/Jason Everett, making a gift over there, joining the community, and it really just helps us to grow this podcast so more people can see it. So that is my opening dialogue, diatribe, dissertation. Crystalina, any remarks before we dive in?
One, I'm really excited for our new set, and we've been looking at different things, but it's almost like a whole new chapter in kind of our podcasting of just kind of moving forward. So I'm excited, and it was like we started this over the summer and kind of piling it together and seeing how it worked, but just we're kind of it's all just evolving. So I'm just excited. It's good, and it was really nice to spend time with Cameron and Fred. The
Matt Frad.
Freds,
Yeah.
Matt Fred. We haven't seen them in a really long time. I
Yeah.
mean, when the kids were little, we saw them, and I mean, we've been friends, saying hi here and there, and spend some time in Cameron and I. But to have them together and be like go on a date night almost,
Yep.
it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was good.
It was
So Matt said he's going
crazy.
to take us to a nice
To be honest.
steakhouse. I assumed he was going to take us to Outback Steakhouse, the whole Australian thing,
It was
but even
crazy.
better than that. So Josiah, how was your week?
It was pretty good. It was
Yeah.
good, just did some work, played some poker with the boys. My dog's 15th birthday was this week.
Wow.
Okay.
That's old.
Yeah,
What's
yeah, he's
15
old.
times 7?
What
That's
kind of
old.
dog do you have?
I have no idea. We got
It's a
him on
mixed thing, remember?
Craigslist.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's a
right. He
Craigslist.
adopted it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mystery breed.
So, yeah, Craigslist mystery meat.
Oh,
Yeah,
Dog on
so
Wish. Yeah.
well,
yeah,
that's
so
sweet.
it was a good week though.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Good deal. We might as well jump in. I believe you probably have some questions that have come in, whether through patrons or the live@chastity.com. But as we talk, if any questions come to mind while you're watching this, just email it live@chastity.com or submit your question through the Discord server and we can chat. But I know we had some questions we didn't get to last week. And then anything that comes in through Patreon, that one always gets bumped up to the top of the list. But what do you got to throw at us? We do not go through these questions beforehand, so we don't prepare any like Miss America answers. Everything's, you're hearing it for the first time like we are. So Josiah, what do we got?
Yeah, they do not prepare. Well, we have somebody with their hand raised. He raised, I think he tried last week, but he didn't get in, so we'll try this
Yeah.
again this week.
Okay.
So Johnny, if you just push accept there on your screen, and you can go ahead, Johnny, whenever you
Hello?
are ready.
Oh,
Yep.
hello.
Hey, Johnny.
Cool.
Hi, Johnny.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Sorry. That's on me.
Almost got
Did you
it.
kick him off already?
I
Thanks.
moved. I did accidentally. Sorry, Johnny. That's on me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes, we can.
Well, great. So thank you for inviting me to have this very deep and intimate accent over Discord. Really appreciate that.
Uh-huh.
Of course.
So if I sound a little blunt or aggressive, I'm not trying to be necessarily, because if you and I actually had a chat in person, we probably agree a lot more than we disagree.
Yeah.
But I just have to question like your methodology on what you kind of say to like younger Catholics, especially my generation. I'm 20.
Okay.
Especially regarding dating.
Okay. Fire away.
It seems, especially with have you seen the debate with Trent Horn and H. Pearl Davis?
I have not. Tell me about it.
Well, in short, Jason, her main argument was that family court's terrible, women aren't marriageable, which I don't believe for a second, and you shouldn't get married because it's a bad deal, and she's going to divorce you, take half your incomes, and throw you in prison.
Mm-hmm.
In short, but my main question for you is, because I've read a little bit of your books.
Okay.
And it seems like for men, you kind of tell in your book, The Dating Blueprint, you give us a bunch of advice on dating, what girls actually want. But when you do the women's book, you say all the things you should. You spent a whole chapter telling them about the guys that don't deserve your time or attention.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a simple question.
Yeah.
Can you tell me something like you wrote that for guys to avoiding crappy girls? I'm not saying all girls are garbage. I just want to know which one. We probably should have some advice on which ones you should avoid like the plague.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I just want to thank you right out of the gate.
That's like a book idea right there for him.
No, it's fair, because I mean we have published in Pure Womanhood the dump him list, but we have yet to formulate the dump her list, which needs
honestly,
to happen.
the dump him list, and you probably haven't read it, but honestly, I tell him it goes both ways. This thing, we just haven't had an official one.
No, it does, and granted, some of that stuff guys are less likely to complain about than a woman necessarily would, but let's come up with we need to come up with a more formal one. But I think we could rattle off some particular things that, in terms of girls.
Can I join?
Oh, Josiah, yeah. Josiah, jump in. No. Let's.
I want both of you. I want to hear this. This would be great.
And then remind Johnny, we want to hear yours too.
Yeah.
Let's do a little round.
First one hold on. Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure my computer wasn't about to die.
Okay.
The first one I would say is how would I say this? The name and only Catholic girls who say they are Catholic, they attend weekly mass, but they don't believe anything the Catholic Church actually teaches. I was actually, if you don't believe me, I was in confirmation, the first time, because my sponsor died and I wasn't able to get confirmed in this church.
Sorry.
I was one of 6 people who were to say abortion is wrong.
Wow. Of a class of how many?
And there was like 20 other kids who, and I guarantee you they all got confirmed.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And
I like that. I really like that one.
Yeah, and also this is just, please, anyone listening, if you're a woman and you're a music person, that's actually why my username's Guitar Master. I'm actually a music student. Especially for me, if I become like, my main goal after college is to become like a minister of music. This is not a generalization. This is just a statement. A lot of times for me, I can't do anything else except music. I will flunk out of academia. Yeah. I'm a horrible math, science, doctor, whatever. And it seems for the women, it just seems like they were, the only thing they were ever allowed to do was be a music student because their mom wanted their like golden little princess.
Gotcha. Okay, so I think we should call.
I'm not saying, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, I think we should call the woman number 1 Catholic wrapping paper girl. So like on the outside looks all Catholic, but underneath the wrapping paper, it's like, oh wow, like you're not on board with how to plan a family, with what the church teaches, papal infallibility, abortion, contraception. Whoa, like this stuff needs to come up earlier in the discussion, and I believe things like this should be, so to speak, weeded out during the friendship phase, where you kind of get to know the person, and then you start to have a little bit more meaningful conversations. Then you can realize, okay, we ain't seeing eye to eye, and so I'm not doing missionary dating. I would encourage.
Hold on 1 second. Can you put me on mute? My dad's talking to me for a second.
Oh, sure, Josiah, I can throw you on mute.
I'm muting.
I would encourage befriending
Yeah.
such women, but not courting such women. I believe it was Pope John Paul II that said, God uses human friendships to lead hearts to the source of divine charity, meaning friendship is a great apostolic tool. Dating, in my opinion, is not. And so I would say, yeah, focus on the friendship long enough to get an idea. Do we have spiritual compatibility going on here, without going to the extreme of thinking that if we agree with all things theological, then it therefore must be God's will that we get married. I think some people go to the opposite extreme of just like, hey, as long as we are in lockstep on all doctrinal matters, she loves the rosary, I love the rosary, then we're good to go. We don't want to over spiritualize it. We don't want to under spiritualize it. But yeah, I'd say let's avoid girl number one, Catholic wrapping paper girl. So Josiah, you got any other of the ladies to avoid for the fine young gentleman courting, wishing to court a spouse?
This one's gonna get me in trouble.
Well, wait,
I don't
just
care.
before you say that, Josiah, I do want to say, like, in the middle of my conversion, where I was like, I wanted to be Catholic and I wanted to be good, and I was kind of being pulled in that direction, but I was living like that double life. I completely can sympathize with those girls that they want that, but it's hard at first. You know, you are so immersed in the world and you want to come back to the Catholic faith, so you're still holding on to all of these beliefs, and it's almost like you have to, like, shed that shell of the world that you've become, and it takes some time. But just to be honest and forthright about that, I think is huge. But there are people that are like in the middle of conversions, and you never know the walk that they're in when they are entering the church. So if you're just having those frank conversations, but honestly, that is a thing. If people are being fake and not being real and just going for like, ooh, I'm Catholic, and then go off and live in the world the rest of the week, and then just on Sunday show up. I completely get that. But there are people in the middle of a journey as well, and to also give them kind of,
and I think this could tie into, so this is more of like an intellectual belief in the teachings of the Catholic Church. I think a separate girl that needs to be avoided is the one who's looking for the perfect spouse without having invested the time to become that perfect spouse herself. So in other words, she's kind of, is he the one? Is he the one? Is that the one? Kind of looking almost like for this host organism to attach to. And she knows everything she wants in them, but she's spending so much time, formulating that list of expectations without actually looking in the mirror, being like, wait a minute, am I growing in the virtues myself to be able to become the gift that I'm supposed to be for my future husband? And so you want to take a serious look, like, are they walking the walk when it comes to living a virtuous life instead of simply wanting to find a provider or a virtuous man? So Josiah, those are two. So the Catholic wrapping paper girl, and then the one who's looking for a host organism to attach to. So number 3, what are you thinking?
I think you need to be, I think men should be, especially young guys, you need to be more harsh about the friends, the women, like her friends. If her friends are like, if she's Catholic, but she's like says she believes everything, but she has like 0 Catholic friends, and 0 friends who are dating in a way that you think is holy, all of the dating advice and all of the discussions she's going to have about your relationship are going to come from a non-Catholic perspective.
Interesting.
I've seen this happen with guys a lot, where they date these girls who in theory are Catholic and good and believe all the things that they should. But the women that they're talking to their relationship about with aren't Catholic. And so the ways they perceive their relationship and the things they do, they don't even realize are a problem, Yeah.
No, that's a good one. So that's that definite red flag there. What other ones coming to mind for you? I've got a couple brewing that I'm thinking about. Girls to avoid.
That her actions are following up with what she says. I mean, that's everything, but that goes with guys too. I mean, you really know a person's heart by their actions and not what they say, right? And so there's got to be something about the actions versus the lip service that you're getting.
I've got another one. Avoid the girl who would prefer you to be her male girlfriend rather than her boyfriend.
Yes.
in other words, like she likes your companionship
Emotionally
and
using you, basically.
she'll spend tons of time talking to you and texting to you and this and that, but like she's really not wanting you as a boyfriend. She may want a boyfriend, but she's not actively receptive to you in that role. And so she kind of keeps you around because she enjoys the company while you're there thinking, oh, this is going to become that. And, you know, maybe eventually she'll desire me in this manner. And it can just be torture for the guy who really thinks this is kind of heading somewhere when in reality she's got interests elsewhere. And that can kind of be crushing when you're just hoping those feelings are going to be reciprocated on her behalf, but it doesn't end up actually happening. So that would, I would say, girl number 3.5 or 4, whatever one we're on. Another girl you might want to watch out for is the girl who expects you to be responsible for her happiness and moods. And in other words, like if she ain't happy, it's because of you. And that her happiness is not really her responsibility, it's your responsibility.
Or when she's unhappy and it has nothing to do with you, she, like, beyond wanting empathy, she like makes it your problem. Like she makes you miserable because she's miserable. That's something completely unrelated.
Yeah. And so you got to realize that you're probably going to get what you want in the end. And the question is, you know, imagine a woman out there who wants a really wealthy guy. And let's say she's beautiful enough to be able to want a guy to want her for whatever superficial reasons. She could probably end up with a really wealthy guy. Like she can probably get that thing. But then what happens a year or two later when she's like, wait a minute, he doesn't pray. He's not faithful. He looks at pornography. It's like, well, you got what you wanted. You wanted the cash, you got the cash. You wanted that security, stability, the capacity for the man to provide provision for you. You got that. So don't complain when you didn't get the things that weren't on the top of your priority list to begin with. Yeah, a woman might say, well, I want a man who's extremely intelligent. Okay, you know, he might have a lot of academic intelligence, but he might lack emotional intelligence. How high was that on your list? Yeah, you know, so, but you've just got to realize, like, what you put at the top of the list is what you're going to invest the most mental and emotional energy in trying to find. But you've just got to make sure, is this list going to matter this much to me 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? And the best thing is to put a bunch of super important things at that list. You know, I want him to be I want this person to be a woman of God, a man of God. I want this person to be somebody who's by temperament happy. That knows how to have mastery over their own moods and by their own disposition is a pretty content human being. So that way, if we experience a great windfall of success in life, they're going to be extra happy, you know, and if things don't go our way, well, they're still able to maintain happiness. And so, you know, try to realize that you're probably going to get what you want in the end. So make sure you're wanting the right thing in the right order. So.
Yeah, and be smart for guys to come up with lists, because I tell women to do this all the time. Know what you want in that significant other, right? Know the desires of your heart and take the time, and not just anybody that comes your way and, oh, this is cute, this is nice. Maybe you can go out on Friday night and just kind of go from there. But it's like you have to meet certain not qualifications, but you should know what you want and have standards and not lower them for anybody. I don't care how gorgeous or nice looking that guy may be. In the end, that's just a shell that you're not going to be happy with. You know, the outside may be good, but the inside is not what you were looking for. So you kind of have to just stay strong in that. And God also knows the desires of your heart, and he has a role to play in this as well. It's not always just up to you and always you having to look and find in the latest dating app and going out. And like, I've heard so many people, men and women, say, well, I'm not out there, so how am I going to find the other person? I've got to get myself out there, and I've got to kind of go to these places, even though sometimes I don't like where they're at, or I don't like the people I'm surrounded with, even if it's at like some young adult thing and the people are greasy there. I don't know, like something's not right.
Greasy.
Yeah, like that's just a nice way of like gross.
What do they say? The odds are good, but the goods are odd.
Just something's off, okay? Do you want me to just say these people are not okay? They're just wrong. So, and we all know what I'm talking about, but at the end of the day, have your list and you won't fall for that. Like, it's not up to you necessarily to go out and find the one. I mean, when I found Jason and we ended up meeting and dating,
I wasn't greasy.
He was not greasy, but all the girls in the
I washed
island
my hair
were
before the stream, so it wouldn't be greasy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not even going to justify anymore. It's when I was focused on God, I was focused on my own healing and my growth, and severing just that distortion that I was diving into in the world, and just trying to become a whole person and do God's will in my life, is when I actually found Jason. And so it's not going to be in some bar or maybe the next dating app. It's just being what God is calling you to be and living that out faithfully. And when God is ready, he's going to bring that person in your life. Like, you don't have to be anxious about it. You don't have to look and think every guy that hands you a coffee, or makes your coffee on the other side of that counter is like, "Oh, is he the one?" Because he smiled at me and he's just been really nice and asked me questions when I go in there. No, he's probably not. He's just being nice and cordial, and you're just not used to getting good attention from men. There's a balance, and vice versa with guys that don't get good attention from women. They just take just being nice as flirting these days because they're starving for it. They're not on their phone or behind a screen. It's a thing. And so I think if you're just in alignment with God's will and doing what you know you're supposed to and not being lazy in that, when you are ready and right ordered, he will bring that significant other to you. But having that other person, or having my husband, does not make me significant. Okay? Having a date or having a boyfriend or girlfriend does not make you significant. You already are. And you have to have your standards and know what they are and not lower them for anyone.
So I would call that girl the guys before God girl. And if God is not first in her
I like
priority
that,
list,
actually.
it was a Curtis Martin from Focus. He said, "Don't spend your single years running after, is he the one, is she the one, is that the one?" He said, no, he said, run.
Torturing yourself.
He said, run after God with everything that you have. And after a while of running, then look beside you and see who's keeping up with you. That's the person that you want to be with on the race. And so make sure you've got a girl who values God before guys, or otherwise, the crown that belongs only to God will be given to you as the guy, and that'll crush you, because ultimately there's only one that can sit on the throne of a human's heart, and it needs to be God. Anybody else, C.S. Lewis, who said that all idols are meant to be broken and all idols will break the hearts of their worshipers. And so we got to find the girl who values God before men. Another girl I'd throw out there is the girl who says counseling later. In other words, maybe she been through some stuff, and that doesn't mean, she's not a possibility, but to what extent has she pursued her own healing? I was talking to my spiritual director yesterday, and he was talking about just trauma in general. And he said more and more brain research is coming out showing that trauma isn't just suffering something. Trauma is typically when you suffer something in the lack of an empathetic witness, in the presence of someone who actually cares, that you don't have any place to vent with that stuff. And so I've heard this just over and over again. It's that going through that stuff when there's no one there seeing and validating that pain. That's really what the trauma that causes difficulty long term. And so if this girl's maybe been through some trauma, that's not a deal breaker, but what did she do with it? Did she find a good Catholic mental health professional, someone to vent, someone to work through this stuff? Because a lot of people are struggling with mental health issues, and they think, oh my goodness, I can never get married because I have this thing. I struggle with chronic depression. I struggle with this. I struggle with that. Okay, what are you doing about it? Granted, we can't just wipe away necessarily certain mental health conditions just by going to a couple sessions, but, get in the fight, make sure you're using the resources that are available. And so I would, as a guy, try to keep an eye out on this stuff, just because if you want to become a priest, you got to go through a whole battery of psychological assessments, but they don't have that in marriage preparation. And so make sure that you're dealing with your stuff. And then if you're dating a girl and it does come up, stuff's happened in the past, just really see how willing she is to work on that stuff, instead of thinking that marriage is going to be a car wash and it all just kind of magically erased. And so if Crystal doesn't have any other ones coming to mind, I don't know if Johnny, you have any, because you've been quiet over there, or Josiah, before we move on. Any other names or ideas pop up?
I had him muted. Let me unmute him real quick. Johnny, you can go ahead.
Apologies if there was some background noise. I live in a crowded house, and my dad
No,
needs
it's all
to
good.
talk all that stuff. You covered it. And Jason, if you ever want someone to write a top 10 girls to avoid, feel free to send me a call.
Dude, just send it in live at chastity.com.
Yeah, send it in the
and
email.
we can take it, add the stuff that we did, tweak it, and even announce it on social media. Hey, everybody, we're coming up with a list of the top 10 girls to avoid. What do y'all think? And might start a dumpster fire with some people, but hey, get
We'll do
over
it.
it.
You know what?
If
We
it
need to
offends
update
people, I
the
do not
dumping
care.
list
I
too.
don't
I mean,
care.
it'd be good if both of them.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I mean,
we
I
should
think
update
you.
them both, and we should do a video of it. We
And
really
then
should.
Josiah, did you have any other thoughts before we, put a bow on this one?
I really think the only other thing, and this is not a specific girl, but this is a mistake I see guys make, is they severely underestimate the importance of shared interests, where they think I have a lot of guy friends who I share my hobbies with, and then they don't really share them with their girlfriend, and then they don't really like her interests, and she doesn't really, so she thinks, oh, I've got a lot of girlfriends to share it with, and then they just kind of do nothing when they're together, and over time they're just bored, and they would rather be spending time with the people who they have shared interests with. So
Yeah.
Smart,
Yeah.
actually. It's
And then-
very good.
I'll throw one more out there that could ruffle some feathers. Avoid the woman who doesn't want a family. I
Yeah.
mean, that could tick off some people to hear of like, wait a minute, I just want to travel with my husband.
Took that
And
advice several months ago.
Oh,
What's
wait,
that?
I totally forgot one. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. The
okay,
travel
well,
culture girl.
yeah,
The
the travel
travel
culture
culture
girl. I want to have an Instagram account with my
cannot date
husband, and
that
we're going to
woman.
take pictures all over the world, and people are going to pay us to go on vacation so we can avoid giving other people the gift of human life. I'm not saying you can only marry a girl who wants a minivan brimming with 13 homeschooled kids or whatever. Not that you can even fit that in a minivan. We discovered you got to get a bigger one. But just, I had a friend once who got married, and, he knew the girl really didn't want a big family. And after they got married, it was like pulling teeth just to have one. And then they had one, and that's it. I'm done. No more. And it was so hard for him to see some of us raising these bigger families. And he just had this ache to have a son, someone he could teach to surf and go do these things. And all our families are growing. And his wife was like this gatekeeper of just like, not on board. I don't want to go through that again. And so discern this well, for the love of your future children and grandchildren, their very existence depends on her openness and receptivity to God's plan for your family, and not necessarily her plan that she might have, because maybe she was raised in a home where she almost considers it an act of love not to have a lot of kids. And she's coming from that place, a place of fear or woundedness. And so, yeah, just keep your eye out on that one, that you've just got to really look at the best interest of generations to come, instead of she's really cute and we really get along very well, and I'll change her mind later on. You can't always bank on that. So, Josiah, you said you had another one?
Yeah, the travel culture girl was the one. You cannot, like, the girl who wants to go, she's in her 20s, and she's going on some international or long flight based vacation, once, twice a year, just with her and her friends. I'm telling you guys, you think that it's just a hobby, but that is so much money. And what that should tell you is that this woman is not monetarily and financially mature enough to be ready for a permanent vocation.
Or maybe
if
in your price range, no.
Yeah.
Or in your price range, unless you're a bajillionaire, right?
Yeah.
If you're a bajillionaire and that's okay, that's one thing. But just
Make
I'm
your
telling
way
you
of
guys,
life just lines up.
Yeah.
How
if you
handle it,
have that
it.
money, that's
'Cause there's
fine.
nothing
But
wrong
I'm
with
talking
it, but yeah.
Yes.
I'm talking her daddy's probably. I don't mean it in a demeaning way, but her dad's probably paying for a lot of this stuff, and she's gonna expect you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one thing if she's going, hopping from Greece to Tuscany to Norway every couple of weeks and just gone for months on end on adventure, versus, some people do like to travel, and there's ways to do that economically. I like to hike. I like to see the outdoors. I mean, we have all these JP2 Trails trips that we create for young adults to meet each other in the wilderness and adventure and things like that. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to see the world, but you just want to get a good sense of how content is she with stability? Would she feel like she's in a cage to just be home and not be able to see the world every couple of months with these exorbitant? Because, as you have kids, obviously the cost of these trips becomes exponentially more, or it may be just like, I've never had the chance to travel the world, and this year I got to see here and there. I mean, when Crystal finished high school, she did a year of missionary work, and she got to go see, what was it, Italy, and I don't know if you went to Spain, Ireland, all this different stuff.
Yeah.
Missionary, that's a different thing, as opposed to almost an addiction to instability is, I think, the one thing you want to watch out for.
Yeah. Okay.
It's called wanderlust for a reason. It's an inordinate desire to wander.
Yeah.
Yeah, restless
It's a
spirit,
vice.
right? And
It's a
and
vice.
there's a time for that in your life, and maybe that's just where she's at, and that's okay. And she wants to go with her friends, or she wants to travel. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just be honest where you're at, what you want, what you're looking for in someone. And again, it just goes back to standards and where you're at in your life. And so if it's someone that you want to just get married and grow a family and be home, be good Catholics, and just married life, and that's what you're looking for, that girl is not for you. So just stay away, right?
Yeah,
Just
and
be
you
friends.
can talk to them
Really
like, hey,
simple.
you love to travel? I love to travel. You love to see the world? So do I.
Yeah.
Okay, but how mature are we in our expectations that we can travel at the pace and budget that we are as singles,
Yeah.
as married couples, and how content would we be if this isn't as available as it used to be? And she might be like, yeah, no, I totally get maybe a trip like this is something every couple of years, or, we got to do more reasonable budget ones. Let's go over to Glacier National Park, or let's go do this or do that, as opposed to Turks and Caicos. So,
You know what? And
All right.
also, the one thing that I do want to just put out there is just date someone that you hope they can stay exactly the way they are, and you can grow together in that, not hoping they're going to evolve and change into something else. So this is a great example. Like, they're traveling, and you think she's just exotic and beautiful and adventurous, and you love that about her, and you start pursuing her and you start dating, but then it's like, well, then she wants to travel and you don't, and you have a job and you can't go do that, but she still has what she wants to do. And it's like, well, you're hoping, well, down the road she'll change, or down the road maybe she won't want to do these things. Well, don't date her then, because you shouldn't expect her to change, because that's not what you want, but you like who she is, and then down the road it becomes a problem. So it's just be honest with yourself of who you want, where you're at, and who you want them to be, and just be honest.
yeah.
It's
And
huge.
speaking of beauty, I think we could do one on vanity. It was Archbishop Fulton Sheen who said the beauty on the outside never gets into the soul, but the beauty of the soul reflects itself upon the face. And so you want to make sure that you're looking for a beauty more than physical, a woman that isn't too obsessed when it comes to vanity and how much it's all about the outside look, the exterior. It's good if she's healthy, she has a dedication to fitness, and she likes looking classy, and great, no problem with all that. But the question is, has that taken a precedence above internal beauty and virtue? Because the external is all going to fade over time. But the woman who's truly beautiful has a prioritization of the beauty of her soul above and beyond the beauty of the face. And it's kind of like you're going to get what you want kind of thing, that just like a woman might want a guy who's rich, and then she's grumpy later on that, he still has the money, but he doesn't have these other qualities that later she comes to value. In the same respect, some guys might hyper prioritize physical attractiveness to the detriment of their own joy long term, of realizing she's real pretty, but she lacks virtue. You could literally marry Miss Universe, but if she's not a virtuous person, you'll be miserable. And so you want to make sure that you're marrying a person of virtue rather than one who's immersed in vanity.
And granted, ladies, this all can go both ways. We know that. So we're gonna get the
Well, we're just beating up the guy. If you're just joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, we're giving a thorough beatdown of the fairer sex, just because our caller called in and said, "Hey, you got to
use that word. Please don't use that word."
Oh, you want fairer gender? So,
Okay.
no, I get you. So, any other last ones? Because like as we talk, more of these are kind of popping up.
Yeah, I think we
Gotta beat that into the ground.
We're
I think we
good.
have a lot, and we need to update the dumping list for the girls. So
Yeah,
We will work
Okay.
on a video for that. I will work on that next week.
yay,
Scripting that. That's a
So
good
Johnny,
idea.
way to kick us off with
Thank
a
you.
home run question.
that was great.
All right. So we have another question. I'd never heard this question before, which is interesting because we get a lot of NFP questions, but I'd never heard this
Oh,
one.
okay.
So,
Okay.
email question. My wife and I have practiced NFP since the start of our marriage. We have 3 beautiful children and are in a now have 3 beautiful children and are in a period of avoiding pregnancy. My wife has a much higher uh, sex drive when she is in the fertile period of the month, which can lead to quite passionate affection for each other that we then stop short of the marital act. However, during the luteal phase, when we are able to come together, her desire levels are very low. We can't help but think that unless we want more children, the marital act is now limited to less passionate sex given her low desire levels. Is this really just the reality of NFP in practical terms? Would be keen for your thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a historical fact that during the woman's fertile phase, her sex drive does increase. The cheeks will flushen a little bit. The lips will be more full. When you see women put a lipstick on or blush, what they're actually doing is artificially creating the look of fertility without realizing that's actually what's going on, because a woman's lips are fuller when she can get fertile, when she can get pregnant. The saliva actually has a higher concentration of sugar in it during her time of fertility. I mean, the body literally changes. The cervical mucus changes in its own consistency so that it can actually nourish the life of the sperm, that it lives longer in her body to maximize the chance of fertility. There's so many changes that happen physiologically in a woman during that time of fertility that, yeah, it's nature's way of saying, hey, kids are great. And so we're actually having, in a sense, to go against nature of like, yeah, they're great, but not now. You know, they're great, but, you know, we're going to kill each other if we have one more kid in the next 6 months. We could just really use a breather. And so NFP demands that extra effort because nature is always inclined towards the giving of human life. And one of the positive effects of this, the negative effect is it kind of can create some marital tension, some challenge, and God's really calling you to grow in that virtue of chastity and self-mastery. So you're not always testing that line of like, well, how close can we get? And then stop at the last minute, not go too far accidentally, and then feel further from each other than we were beforehand. So God is, in a sense, testing you in that virtue, but then he's also forcing you, in a sense, to have conversations. Because maybe right now it's very clear now's not the time to add another pregnancy to the mix. But a lot of times with NFP, you might have a conversation another 4 or 5 months of just like, you know, well, I thought we were abstaining because you were kind of overwhelmed. Well, no, I'm in a better place right now. The kids are sleeping through the night. Well, I thought we were abstaining because like you were kind of like financially stretched then. Well, no, things are going better at work right now. So why are we waiting? I don't know that we had the reasons that we did 6 months ago. And so NFP and the sex drive inclines you to have those conversations, whereas those conversations tend to get buried under contraception. Like we don't really need to have the conversation because we can just have it whenever the heck we want. And so yeah, it definitely is a challenge. And what you could try to do is find other ways to make her more receptive towards sexual intimacy, in particular by how you're treating her throughout the day leading up to the evening. Instead of thinking like, well, when during the fertile time, you know, she's just very receptive. At any given time, the physical touch to her is so much more stimulating. Just giving her a hug could lead to a kiss, could lead to this, to lead to that. Not a lot needs to happen to get her more interested and warmed up. Whereas during the non-fertile times, maybe to get her more interested, we need to start earlier in the day of bringing home flowers, being affectionate, just giving her a sense of more connection through the day will make it easier to connect in the evening. And so maybe it's kind of pushing you in a sense to think of foreplay as something that needs to happen 6 hours in advance instead of 6 minutes, and that you're starting to learn her, to love her in non-physical ways. And as a result of that, the intimacy can deepen. So those are some initial thoughts from a guy's perspective. Woman's perspective on all that?
No, I think it's a real thing to pursue your wife outside of the bedroom in a lot of different ways and make her feel loved and safe. And a lot of the times when there is that fear of pregnancy, it's always there. It's concerning, it's worrying because it's so much. And I just know for me, just even the toll it would take on my body alone. And then I had all these other little ones, and I knew it was if I got pregnant again, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I just had this fear in the back of my mind no matter what. So it kind of was almost a barrier to get close with Jason because of that. So it's like just to ease her fears as well, and just see how maybe you can ease those fears or help her out more if she doesn't feel so anxious and maybe worried, because because it affects a lot of things and it's hard. There are just going to be seasons in your marriage and sacrifices in your marriage that maybe you weren't even expecting when it comes to this. But at the end of the day, it is just a season.
Yeah. And 2 practical points as you go through this. When you know now's not the time to conceive, really be prayerfully prudent in regards to how physical the affection becomes between you. Because it's almost like dating in that the more pure you are, the easier it is to be pure. The more you kind of sit on the fence and be like, we won't do that, but we're still going to do this. The way that human sexuality works is it's designed to be all consuming. It's almost like I give you a lighter and I bring you to a lake full of gasoline and I tell you, now just light the first 5 gallons. Good luck with that. I'm going to stand back because I think we all know from marriage, just a simple kiss can lead to so much more naturally because you have a little closeness and you want a little more closeness. And when you want a little more closeness, you want a little bit more. And it can kind of be all consuming. And so you just need to be prudent there. So the question is, okay, well, where do we draw the line? Well, what do we do instead? While we were on Pints with Aquinas, it came up in the discussion that Crystal and I were kind of in the midst of this online marriage kind of retreat thing. It's like 6 hours long. And they shared with us a thing and they challenged us to try to do this together every night. We have not been successful in doing that, but the nights we've done it, it's been super helpful. And they call this daily temperature reading. And to give credit where credit is due, this is through the Dr. Bob Schutz has the JP2 Healing Center.
Awesome.
They do different marriage retreats from beloved to connected to this to that. And this was out of the Connected retreat, which anybody can take. I think you can do it online. You can do it in person. And so it was like,
it's worth it.
This is only supposed to take 5 minutes a night. And because it only takes 5 minutes, men are more likely to do it because they're like, okay, this isn't going to take us down a rabbit hole of 3-hour long conversation and debate. It's just a check in with each other at the evening. Daily temperature. This is not NFP temperature, so don't think we're going there. This is just relational temperature here. So, first thing you discuss is appreciations. So, hey, Crystalina, I really appreciate today that you blah, 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 blah. Then you kind of just say something that you appreciated that your spouse did or who they are or whatever. Then they return that to you. And this is what I appreciated about you today. You move right on. New information. Oh, hey, I forgot to tell you, this is going on with the kids, or this is going on for me at work, or this happened. Just some new information that may have been significant to you, but you haven't communicated to your spouse that particular day. The third thing is puzzles. Yeah, this thing I just kind of wrestling. I can't kind of figure out what to do here. And the answer isn't that you're really solving it there at that moment, but you're kind of putting it on each other's radar. So you could kind of sit on that and, hey, this thought came to mind. You mentioned that last night. Have you thought about this? So again, you're just bringing these up, kind of touching base, moving on. The next one is complaints with a request for change. This one we've kind of built up to it. You know, we've shown I appreciate you. We've kind of connected a little bit. Now we're going to bring a complaint because if we're not doing this, these complaints just build up like this complaint box that never gets read until the thing overflows and blows up. And so if something is building up pressure, you have to let out steam or it's just going to explode. And so this is giving you a chance to do that. You're giving them a complaint with a request for them to change something. They said this is not the nuclear button right now. We are not picking the hottest topic, 8 minutes before bedtime to bring up, or like, I've got this deep trauma that you caused 38 years ago that I just want to, get into this World War III over. No. Hey, earlier in the day when that happened, it kind of really bugged me and I didn't say anything at the time because blah, blah, blah. And then hopefully the person can receive that with some reflective listening. And again, the answer is not to solve and debate the whole thing right there. Just kind of try to bring it something minor to their attention and hopefully you receive it quickly and you move on. So we got appreciation, new information, puzzles. Next is complaints with a request for change. Then the last 3 are apologies, and try to not make them faux apologies of like, I'm sorry that you were oversensitive and offended by what you think that I did to you. Like, no, real apologies, no faux apologies. Followed to prayer requests, hey, could you, pray for my sister, blah, blah, blah. Or could you pray for me with this thing coming up at work tomorrow? Just a prayer request that the other person kind of take their heart and intercede for. And then lastly, just kind of wishes, hopes, and dreams. And it could be long-term, hey, one day I dream of doing this, or I'd love for our 25th wedding anniversary, we could do this. Or just like, hey, I'd love to do this with you in a couple of weeks. It'd be really neat date ideas, this. So again, appreciations, new information, puzzles, complaints with a request for change, apologies, prayer requests, then wishes, hopes, and dreams.
And make sure you're looking at each other. Like, make some eye contact. It's a thing. It's a big deal.
Yeah. So at the same level, looking at each other and keeping it under 5 minutes.
Okay.
So
cool.
Moving on.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Let's try to get through a couple more of these quickly.
Yeah, we're sorry. 46 minutes in, we've gone through 2 questions, sir.
Yeah.
We're flying.
My sister's fiance is transitioning male to female. I have 4 boys from ages 5 to 14. We have not told my boys. My sister said unless I allow my children to continue a relationship with her male to female fiance, she doesn't see how she can have a relationship with me.
No, that's her loss.
Yeah. Okay.
Your primary responsibility is the innocence of your children. If they have reached an age where this is something that they should know about and that you could explain to them, and it's not going to introduce to them unnecessary levels of confusion regarding gender dysphoria. At some age, they're going to see people identifying as trans and presenting as this or that, and they're going to have questions, and those are teachable moments. And I don't know the ages of all the kids, and maybe they're of the age where you could have a discussion as to what gender dysphoria is and why we love this person and we pray for this person and we don't treat them like they have leprosy or whatever. But they got to be at the age where it's appropriate for that information. And that's a question for you and your spouse to discern. But the well-being of the children goes above family relationships, even though if those be painful. And you want to maintain your relationship with her, that you're not scandalized, you're not going to lose your faith or get all questioning, that you'd love to spend time with her and her partner and to talk about the weather and the sports teams and work and this and that, and just really treat them in a human and loving way. But there has to be a hierarchy of values with the children coming first and the children that God has entrusted to you.
Yes, and hopefully they can respect that and you can continue that relationship at your choosing. But
yep,
at the end of the day, it's about
Can
kids
and try to have a conversation with her about this, that I don't want to blacklist you for the rest of your natural life for my children. I just want to introduce them to this subject in an age-appropriate way when I feel as the parent that we're ready. And so it's not that I need to forever shield my children from you and your partner. It's just that I need to discern as a parent when the right time is for that. And I hope you can respect that. So try to have a frank conversation, knowing that you're not going to just forever cut them out of your life, but that you'd appreciate if they'd respect the decisions that you make with your kids.
Also, I think something maybe people aren't always thinking about in these situations is that like they're gonna see trans people around, and you can't like protect them from ever seeing them. But in the context of family, in the context of approving of like a marriage, or going to that wedding or having your children there, that's a completely different context, and it's completely acceptable to say categorically, no, they will not know of this.
Yeah, I mean, I took my kids to an NBA basketball game, and one of the cheerleaders was a guy dressed like all of the other women, and the boys were like, "What is that?" And they thought it was like a parody, and I thought, okay, I wasn't really planning on discussing gender dysphoria on the way home from the Suns game, but we're going to talk about this on the way home. Let's enjoy the game. We'll talk when we get in the car. I took him to a restaurant, and the guy serving the food, was very clearly male, but presenting as female, and all the kids were just like, "What is that?" And the guy went behind the counter for a while, and the kids were like, "What do we do?" And I said, just watch. I'll show you what we do. And they all came back, "What's Dad going to do?" And I said to the guy, "How's your day going today? And how have you been?" And I just started having a conversation with the guy and treat him like a human being. And then we sat down, and I'm like, "Kids, you know what that's called over there? That's called a human being, okay? That's the name we have for that." And then I explained gender dysphoria, but with leading in with how we need to treat people with love and kindness and compassion, because if that's the only time he ever saw someone like wearing a miraculous medal or a crucifix, and he felt like, wow, that person treated me like a human being, it might make them think twice down the road about the fact that they've been told that all Christians hate them when that's not the truth.
Cool. We got this email. I think it's really good, but it's a question we've addressed a lot, so I don't think we'll get super deep into it. But there was a specific phrase in here that I wanted to point out and get your guys' take on.
Okay.
So I will recommend to this young woman that she go look at the video on late 20s dating. I'll link that in the description. But the email is, I'm 29. I've never been in a relationship despite really wanting to be. Sometimes it was fear that held me back. Sometimes it was my circumstances. Sometimes there wasn't mutual attraction. I took some time on becoming the kind of person I would want to be married to and still haven't found anyone. I always had pictured myself being married by 30s, and now I have to concede that that won't happen. But I don't understand why God would give me this intense desire for marriage. If that's the case, can you offer any advice? Like I said, this is a really heartbreaking situation. We've made some videos on this, but I wanted to ask you guys. The phrase that jumped out at me was becoming the kind of person I would want to be married to. And I'm wondering what you guys think of that attitude from a man or a woman, considering men and women, probably especially single ones, don't have a great idea of what the other sex wants to be married to.
Giving her the benefit of the doubt, I'm assuming she's meaning a person of virtue, of fidelity, of sobriety, that's healthy, that's mentally healthy, physically healthy, just a good human being, a devout Catholic. I'm presuming she's saying those things just because a friend of mine was helping his daughter who was in her 20s. She was doing some online dating thing and just wasn't having a lot of luck. And the dad was like, well, what are you putting out there? What you want to find? And the girl's like, I love cats and I want someone who loves cats and I love that. And the dad's like, dude, you're just looking for a male version of yourself. Like, no wonder no one's responding. Like, have some room for complementarity here and opposites to be able to attract. And so, yeah, you don't want to just look for the male mirror image of yourself. That's obviously not going to get you far. In terms of one practical thing, I know Emily Wilson and her husband are creating something called Sacred Spark. They're about to launch this thing, and it's going to be like a real revolutionary way for Catholics to meet each other through this app and this platform. So I encourage you, just Google that. If you go to chastity.com and go in our dating Q&A, you can scroll down there to the bottom and there's a link to Sacred Spark. You can sign up for the waiting list, or I'll email you, Josiah, the link to put it in the show notes. So anyone listening, just scroll down to the show notes, click that link for Sacred Spark, and you can get on the waiting list to learn about this revolutionary new tool that's just come out to help Catholic young adult singles find each other, whether it's 20s, 30s, or beyond.
I would really also pray against the spirit of being anxious and of fear that God is not going to fulfill the desires of your heart and that he doesn't know. And because I feel like after women cross over in their 30s, and they're not married or whatever, they get desperate in their own way, shape, or form. And so just to be careful of that, guard your heart against that, and just keep doing the will of God in your life, and he's gonna take care of you. And do not, under any circumstances, lower your standards or do anything that is counter to the Catholic faith and make these huge decisions and just go after things that frankly you have no business going after. Just be at peace and maybe ante up your adoration time and build your relationship with Jesus. And I know that's not what you want to hear. It's completely opposite of the world and what it's telling you. But at the end of the day, guard your heart and don't lower your standards out of fear or anxiety, because God knows what you're going through. God knows your desires, and just be faithful to that. You just never know what he has in store for you.
All right. Well, I have a couple more, but they're kind of long, so I don't think I have. I was trying to come up with something short and fun.
Also, if you're feeling distant from your spouse, and a lot of these things are geared towards spouses and things that we're saying, even that connected thing that Jason gave you, like, that sounds weird or just off because maybe you're single or you're just like married and you have no idea what we're talking about. But if you are married and you are feeling disconnected from your spouse, and maybe it is that time of abstinence, you're having a hard time with NFP, I would really encourage you to go to Dr. Bob's website and maybe do one of those courses with your wife, maybe just a little bit each night. And it's amazing what it can do in your marriage and just help you, especially in those times where you don't feel connected to
and that's
your
the
spouse.
JP2 Healing Center, Tallahassee, Florida, with Dr. Bob Schutz.
Dr. Bob. And he has an amazing podcast. I love our podcast. It's great, but he also has one that is just phenomenal, especially for married couples and people that have really experienced a lot of trauma in their lives.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And
I think that's, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
No, I was just going to encourage the people that are watching to help us show these episodes to more people, because Josiah did some digging around and found out that we've been actually shadow banned for years on YouTube. And so we might come out with an episode and have 40,000 subscribers. YouTube will typically show it to a couple hundred, meaning the vast majority of people, even who subscribe to us, aren't getting the content showing up. And so how you can help us with that, if you haven't already, please like the video, please subscribe to the video, leave comments on the video, and then share it. All you even have to do is just copy and paste, like cut and say you're going to share it, and that'll start showing it to other people. Even if you don't share it, just the fact that you're copying the link, YouTube will see the interaction going on and show that to more people. And so many of the people who watch the show don't even subscribe and don't realize how much it would help if they did. And so if you haven't yet, please click like, subscribe, comment, share. All that interaction bumps it up the algorithm. And then likewise on Patreon, as I said at the top of the show, if you'd be willing to support us on Patreon, it's just a huge help to get us the equipment we need to build a new set here. As you can tell, it needs a little bit of work. It's a kind of a blank canvas, so any support on Patreon goes a long way. We'd like to get some extra cameras in here, some better lighting, and you guys are the ones running the show, and so we created the show for you, and this is just a way to kind of help us out. But in the meantime, any questions come up this week or you wish were answered that were not, send those to live@chastity.com. Josiah goes through that inbox, picks the best ones, and the patrons get bumped to the top of the list.
Sorry we haven't gotten to some of your questions. I know there's a lot and we maybe need to shorten our answers, but we're sorry for the ones we didn't get to. We will.
We got to most of them. So yeah, everybody do that. Look out sometime in the next month or two, right, Crystalina, for our video of Mother Angelica? Are we doing that in the next month or two?
Yeah, we can figure it out. We're going to do it, especially with the midst of all of this stuff. So
yeah. So look out for that, everybody.
And then I'd ask listeners' prayers. The school year is underway, and we're going to be traveling, giving a bunch of chastity talks starting very soon. So our first trip is I'm giving 9 chastity talks in less than 72 hours to more than 4,000 teens in Louisiana. So please storm heaven with us. We're also doing a fundraiser right now at chastity.com, where each year we give away
chastity.com/one book.
One book /1 ONE book. And so what it is, we give away about $250,000 worth of free books after these chastity talks. So the idea of the talk is to kind of light the flame, but then we want to fuel it afterwards. And so those books are like logs we can kind of throw on that fire so it stays alive. And so it's a lot to raise, and we've probably got about 90+% of the way to go. But every $5 donated is able to get us a book shipped to the school and handed to one of these high school kids. And so if you want to donate and support, you go to chastity.com to make a gift. But again, Josiah, thanks for running all the tech there. We look forward to chatting with you and all you on the other side of that screen next Thursday, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will see you in a week. God bless.